Welcome to the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa Oldson, a board-certified weight loss medicine specialist and certified life coach. In this podcast, I'll share fresh insights and effective techniques for incorporating mindset, habit change, and proven science into your life. Are you ready to achieve sustainable weight loss, wellness, and longevity? Then let's jump in and lose weight the smart way. Welcome back. Hey, did you notice that this is the 150th episode of the podcast? I'm so excited for that milestone. Thank you for being a part of this with me. You know, my family's been impacted by the disease of obesity, and it makes me happy to be putting reliable science-backed information out there to help you and those you love to be healthy. I also appreciate the opportunity to reduce the shame many people experience about struggling with their weight. It's not easy, and not everything is in our control. Toxic food environment. As you know, I'm always on the mission to get healthier for myself too. In fact, I was just thinking that there's no sparkly health fairy who's going to swoop into my house with her magic wand and get rid of the chocolate that's crept in the past couple of weeks. In honor of the 150th episode, I think I'll do something to work on that. As I've been working on the podcast for the past few years, diving into the science about weight loss and habit change has helped me as much as I hope it helps all of you. Today, we're diving into something that comes up almost every time I have a conversation with people who are working on their weight and their health. We're talking about willpower. We've talked about it before, and I think we should talk about it again, because for people working on weight loss and creating healthy habits, willpower is the commodity that everyone wants more of. Me too. We've all been there. It's 9 o'clock at night. You made it through a packed workday. You made good choices at breakfast and at lunch. But now you're standing in front of the refrigerator, tired and hungry, and suddenly your rules for the day feel a lot more negotiable. If you're like me on days like that, you might wonder what happened to your willpower. And more importantly, what can we do to avoid this situation the next time? Today, I want to share what science actually tells us about willpower, where it comes from, why it runs out, and how we can build more of it. And here's the twist, why our ultimate goal is to actually need it less. Most of us were raised to think of willpower as something you either have or you don't, kind of a fixed character trait. But researchers have completely overturned that idea. Roy Baumeister, a social psychologist formerly at Florida State University, conducted some of the most influential research in this space beginning in the late 1990s. He and his colleagues proposed what they call the strength model of self-control. And the core idea is exactly what it sounds like. Willpower behaves like a muscle. It gets stronger with training, but it also gets tired. In Baumeister's now famous studies, participants who had to resist eating cookies before a task, essentially burning through their willpower, gave up significantly faster on a subsequent challenging puzzle than those who hadn't had to resist anything. They weren't weaker people, they were depleted people. This state became known as ego depletion. And here's what makes ego depletion so relevant to those of us working on our health. Its effects are not contained. When you use up willpower in one area, you have less of it for everything else, including your food choices. Researchers have confirmed this across all domains, including eating, spending, and decision-making of all kinds, including seatbelt use and even condom use. Think about that refrigerator visit at 9 p.m. You didn't become a different person, you became a depleted one. You spent willpower all day navigating a difficult conversation at work, resisting the treats someone left in the break room, staying focused in a boring meeting, racing to get home in time, and maybe even managing the lives of others, your kids or elderly parents, or perhaps your dog. By evening, the willpower tank is running low and the brain starts looking for a reward to create a sense of relief that you made it through another hectic day. This also connects to something you may have heard about, the relationship between hunger and decision making. Research has shown that when blood glucose drops, in other words, when we're hungry and our blood sugar is running low, our ability to self-regulate drops with it. Baumeister's team found that acts of self-control actually use up glucose, which is the brain's primary fuel. Lower glucose, lower willpower. It's one of the reasons we say don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry, and why a sensible regular eating pattern is itself a willpower strategy. That's not to say that we need to be afraid of hunger, but we want to avoid being overly hungry. I don't know about you, but when I'm 10 out of 10 on the hunger scale, nothing good comes out of that, especially at the grocery store. Now, here's where it gets hopeful, because this is very much not a story of being stuck with what you've got in terms of willpower. You have more agency than you might realize. Dr. Kelly McGonigal is a health psychologist at Stanford University and the author of The Willpower Instinct, one of the best books I've read on this topic, even though it was published over 10 years ago. She draws on a powerful body of research showing that we can actually train our willpower and that the training works in ways that go far beyond the specific challenge we're practicing. In other words, training your willpower in one aspect of your life, unrelated to your health or weight, will help you the next time you're faced with cookies in the break room at work. Here's the key insight. The willpower muscle gets stronger the same way any muscle does, through progressive, manageable challenges. Not overwhelming challenges, not white-knuckling your way through a brutal diet, manageable challenge. Little deliberate exercises that require you to pause, be mindful, and choose the harder path. I know you want to hear what those exercises look like so you can start working your willpower muscle. I've got a few specific suggestions for you, which I'll share right after a quick word from our sponsor. Just kidding. It's still me, Dr. Lisa Oldson, physician and founder of Smart Weight Loss Coaching. If you're as focused on your health as you are on the scale, you're my person. In my online program, we'll show you how to transform the way you approach weight loss so it takes up less brain space and frees up your time for the things you love to do. If you'd like to learn more about our women's or our men's program for weight loss, better health, and longevity, head over to smartweightlosscoaching.com. Join us to see how different a smart weight loss program can be. And we're back. We're just talking about specific examples of willpower exercises you can do today to start strengthening that metaphorical muscle. Dr. McGonigal offers a beautifully low-stakes example. Try brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand, or use your non-dominant hand to open doors or drink your coffee, or commit to sitting up straight every time you notice you're slouching, which of course I did just as I said this, and I'll bet you did too. Another example she gives is saying yes, not yeah, which I'm sure would take a lot of willpower for my kids, and maybe for me too. Now I want to do a vocabulary audit where I catch myself every time I say yeah. These tasks may seem almost silly in their simplicity, but that's actually the point. As Dr. McGonigal notes, the challenge itself isn't what matters. What matters is the practice of noticing what you're about to do and then choosing to do the harder thing instead of the easier one. When I use my left hand instead of my dominant right hand to drink my coffee, I'm training my brain to create that pause, that space between impulsive action, and then to act from intention rather than habit. So I'll intentionally grab my coffee cup with my left hand instead of my right. These small exercises produce real, measurable improvements in self-control on completely unrelated tasks. People who committed to 2 weeks of using their non-dominant hand showed improved self-regulation across the board, whether they're eating fewer treats, spending less money, or wasting less time scrolling on social media. That's the carryover effect of willpower training. The key is to make these exercises challenging enough to require effort, but not so hard that they drain you. You're not trying to deplete your willpower, you're trying to strengthen it over time. Think of it the way a good personal trainer thinks about progressive overload. You don't take someone who's never exercised before and start by training them for a marathon. You start with a walk around the block and maybe build up to a walking 5K. From there, you can keep going, of course, but the idea is to start with something within reach that requires some effort, but not too much. Let me make what I think is the most important point of this episode. As valuable as it is to build willpower, our real goal in sustainable weight management is to set up our lives so that willpower is less necessary, and we do that through habits. We've talked about this before. Think about brushing your teeth at night. Do you have to wrestle with yourself about whether to do it? Do you feel a great internal struggle, bargaining between the parts of you that want to brush your teeth and the part of you that doesn't want to brush? No, probably not. You just do it, right? Maybe at some point when you were young, there was drama around teeth brushing, but now it's automatic. There's no emotional charge, no negotiation, no willpower required. That's what a true habit looks like. And neuroscience explains why. Once a behavior becomes habit, it shifts from the prefrontal cortex, which is the conscious and effortful decision-making part of your brain, to the basal ganglia, which runs our routines automatically and efficiently. This is the prize. We use willpower up front to create the habits, to go to sleep at a consistent time, to prep healthy food on Sunday afternoons, to put on our workout clothes first thing in the morning. And then, once those habits are locked in, we no longer have to draw on our willpower reserves to execute them. So the strategy isn't just get more willpower, it's use willpower strategically in small doses, mainly up front, to build habits that eventually run themselves. Then your precious willpower reserve is available for the moments that genuinely surprise you and require you to dig deep to make the healthy choice, like passing on a free dessert or going to the gym after a stressful day. I'd like to share one more idea that I find encouraging, and it comes not from the field of psychology, but from exercise physiology. In 1924, a physiologist named Archibald Hill suggested that the brain acts as a kind of central governor during physical exertion, monitoring the body's condition and sending the signal to slow down before things get dangerous when it senses overexertion. That idea was further developed and popularized by South African sports scientist Timothy Noakes, who proposed what he called the central governor model. The insight is this: when you're running a race and you hit that wall and feel like you have absolutely nothing left, that feeling of utter depletion is not necessarily an accurate report of your physical reality. It's your brain being cautious. It's a protective signal, not a physical ceiling. And here's the proof athletes know well. Somehow, after miles of feeling completely tapped out, they find a kick in the last 400 meters. The brain, recognizing the finish line is close and danger has passed, opens the gates back up. That reserve was always there. I'm not a runner, but I relate to this. I used to be a jogger and not a particularly good one. I was always hitting that wall. I remember that feeling that I couldn't go any further because it happened pretty much every time I ran. I found it helpful to remind myself, I can make it to the next driveway, or I can make it to that tree, or I can make it to the end of the block. And then I tell myself I could make it to the next driveway or the next tree or block. And it's true that I really was able to do it, even when I thought I was thoroughly depleted. Now, I'm not suggesting that you ignore genuine exhaustion or push yourself to injury. But I think this principle applies beautifully to willpower. When you're about to order pizza at the end of a long day, feeling like you have nothing left, that feeling of depletion may be real, but it might also be your brain's conservative estimate of your willpower reserves. You likely have a bit more in the tank than the signal suggests. Research on ego depletion actually supports this. Studies have found that when people who feel depleted are given a strong enough motivation or simply reminded that they do have more capacity, they can and do access more self-control. It's not unlimited, but the ceiling is higher than we usually think it is. So the next time you're white-knuckling it and thinking, I just can't, try treating that thought as a signal, but not a fact. Acknowledge that your brain notified you that your tank is running low, and then ask whether you might have just a little more in reserve, and keep pushing. All right, let's pull this all together because today's episode draws from so much fascinating research that's going to help you as you work to create healthy habits. It's going to help me too. Willpower is a real finite resource. It gets depleted throughout the day, and when it's low, we make worse choices around food, alcohol, spending, all of it. Hunger makes this worse yet by lowering the blood glucose that your brain depends on to self-regulate. But willpower is also trainable, as we learned today, and like a muscle, it grows stronger with use, as long as you train it progressively and don't overwhelm it. Small, deliberate willpower exercises, like using your non-dominant hand, committing to better posture, or waiting 10 minutes before giving into a craving, build the neural pathways for self-control that carry over into every area of your life. The real long-term strategy, though, is to use that strengthened willpower to build solid habits around sleep, food prep, movement, and stress management so that those healthy behaviors eventually become automatic. Willpower up front, drama-free routines later. And when you feel tapped out and sure you've got nothing left, remember that marathon runner who hits a wall. Your brain's signal of depletion is often more conservative than your actual reserve. You may have more in the tank than you think. I hope this was helpful. As always, sustainable weight loss isn't about deprivation, it's about strategy. And understanding how your brain works is one of the most powerful strategies we have. Okay, friends, it's time to set your NBA, your next best action for today. I'm going to try to work on my posture. I love that one. And if that enables me to have the willpower to take a pass on dessert later, I'm all in for the practice. How about you? Whatever your MBA is for today, I hope you'll write it down and start your willpower practice, and then share this episode with someone else who could use the support. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more support during your smart weight loss journey, check out our group coaching program at smartweightlosscoaching.com. Until next time, stay well and stay smart.